The Ronin, a mysterious drifter with no master left to serve. Left alone and without purpose, they will wander the settled systems, looking for any way to regain their honour. The background for this build will, of course, be Ronin. It's the namesake of the character, and all the skills provided, dueling, stealth and scavenging, are helpful to start with. As for traits, I have Neon Street Rat, Introvert and Alien DNA. Neon Street Rat is primarily here for backstory reasons, but it does also help with our main faction, and it's just a really cool place to hang out. Introvert is critical to the entire build. With it you expend less oxygen when adventuring alone, allowing you to sprint for longer and get in more power attacks. As for Alien DNA, it will boost your total oxygen and health, while making healing items less effective. For this build, that's perfect. The only time I've died with this character is when there was an overabundance of bullets flying at my face real fast, and it was too quick to heal through. The rest of the time, having a bigger health pool is incredibly helpful. When it comes to skills, we start in the physical tree with Stealth. Max this out and you get a 100% bonus to sneaking. Without this skill, it's virtually impossible to get sneak melee attacks, so leveling it is a priority. I would recommend using a suppressed burst fire automatic gun to level the skill quickly early on, as getting those early sneak melee attacks is very challenging. Next up we have Gymnastics maxed out. This will allow you to combat slide, get better mantling, move faster in 0G, and increase your jump height. This final part is both a blessing and a curse. While it does mean you don't need to use boost packs that often, helping you stay in stealth for longer, it also is a real pain in low gravity environments. Hope you're not afraid of heights. I then have 3 ranks of martial arts. This will increase your crit damage, give you a chance to disarm enemies with power attacks, and reduce the damage you take by 10% while holding your sword. You can also go for the 4th rank if you want, but I personally find blocking isn't that helpful, as there's so few melee enemies in the game, and they're really not a challenge to face. If you don't go for the 4th rank though, you will need to spend a point elsewhere in the physical tree. I'd personally recommend a rank of fitness. The extra oxygen synergizes well with Alien DNA and Introvert. With 12 points spent in the tree, you can now get the Concealment skill. This is the ultimate stealth skill, so the more ranks you get, the merrier. I personally only ended up with 2 ranks while playtesting, but that provided me with a 5 times sneak attack bonus, enough to get the damage numbers up over 1000. You also end up not setting off mines and can move at full crouch speed without penalty. If you get the following 2 ranks, then you also gain the chameleon effect permanently and can disengage from a fight by going into stealth mode. That's it for the physical skills, onto the social tree. First up is scavenging. You already get 1 rank from the Ronin background, so may as well put a couple of extra points in there so you can find extra aid items. There's a lot of chems which help with both melee and stealth builds, so stocking up on them is a real help. You'll need 4 points in the tree in order to get the next tier of skills, so I'd recommend also throwing a point into Persuasion. There's plenty of speech checks in the game, so a little edge comes in handy. Once you've got 4 points invested, you can now start ranking up Isolation. At the top rank you get an extra 80% damage and 120 damage resist, but only while you have no companions, crew, and are wearing both a spacesuit and helmet. I'll be honest, don't get why that final part is included in the skill, but it does mean that the skill isn't permanently helpful. If you're ever not wearing your full suit, then expect a damage decrease. That's the social tree done, now onto combat, where there's only 1 to grab, dueling. Maxing out this skill gives a 50% boost to melee damage, and reduces damage you take by 15% while holding a melee weapon. On top of that, whenever you kill someone with your weapon, you run 20% faster for 10 seconds, and you restore a 10th of your health. Honestly, I love the dueling skill. It's the perfect example of how to do a weapon skill right. Only 2 skills left, and both are in the tech tree. First is Boost Pack Training. This is pretty much a go-to with every build in the game, but don't get over-reliant on it, as the sound of the boost pack will alert enemies to your presence. Final skill is Security. I put 3 points in this in order to crack open master level locks. With it, you'll be able to break into anywhere you please. Onto equipment now, starting with the weapon. The Syndicate Enforcer is an epic version of the Wakizashi, a Japanese sword which I almost certainly mispronounced. This blade comes with the Berserker and Lacerate effects. Honestly, neither of these effects are all that amazing. Lacerate is kind of nice for extra damage, but you'll typically be killing enemies long before the damage over time does anything significant. As for Berserker, the extra damage for lower resistances is kind of nice to have. While wearing my suit, helmet and pack, the sword was at 108 damage, without them the damage bumped up to 134. It's a decent increase, but not a game-changing one. If you're able to find a better blade as a random drop, feel free to use it instead. When it comes to the spacesuit, pack and helmet, you can go for anything you want here. The main thing to look out for is the chameleon effect. This will allow you to cloak when crouched and not moving, greatly increasing your overall stealth capabilities. One thing to note is that you can unequip all these items when you're in an interior location in order to be better at sneaking. What you're wearing underneath is what makes you real good at stealth. The operative suit gives a 25% bonus to sneaking, making it the perfect apparel for a stealth build. In addition to the standard equipment, you'll also want to enhance your character with a variety of chems. There's a lot of different aid items which can help out with both melee and stealth characters. The main two I'm going to highlight here are Frostwolf and Red Trench. Frostwolf increases damage, boosts movement speed, and reduces the noise from moving. This makes it the ideal thing to pop when you want a stealth mission to go flawlessly. As for Red Trench, that also gives the damage boost, but additionally a huge increase to damage resistance. This is what you want to use once stealth fails in order to keep yourself alive and keep your enemies not alive. I'm a very good writer, please someone hire me. When it comes to your spaceship, there's no real recommendation here. Space combat is not a real priority for this character, so just go with whatever the best ship you can find is. For me, this was the Razorback from the Mantis quest. All you really need is a ship good enough to keep you alive when you're flying through space alone. When it comes to factions for this character, Ryujin Industries will be your main focus. Both your weapon and apparel piece are acquired while completing their missions, however you don't need to be loyal to them. Treat the company more as a means to an end, rather than something you should be loyal to. As you have the Neon Street Rat trait, I'd also recommend doing whatever jobs a drifter can manage to pick up on that corrupt fishing platform. You cannot have followers when playing this character. Flat out, no followers at any point. Both isolation and introvert become either useless or harmful to your character when you have someone travelling with you. Not to mention that followers will almost certainly ruin your attempts at stealth. Not only can you not have someone following you around, you also can't have any crew on your ship, or else isolation will stop working. This does mean that your ship will always be a bit worse off, but it's the price we pay to not have to listen to someone talking about the hum of a grav drive for the 100th time. This character is a pure melee build. What this means is the start of the game is going to be incredibly difficult, but once you've got the skills leveled up, you become a deadly killing machine. In terms of combat, you want to start off fights by staying crouched and trying to isolate individual enemies. Get close and pick them off with stealth attacks in order to thin the herd. Stealth melee is very difficult. If you're patient, smart, and have strong situational awareness, then it's an incredibly powerful playstyle. I'm only about half of those things, so stealth will always fail for me at some point. When that happens, you want to use speed to your advantage. Melee builds move faster than any others, and you want to use this to get around the backs of enemies so they can't attack you, and close the distance on ranged enemies before they can dish out too much damage. For both speed and stealth, the most important part is target acquisition. As such, I made sure to use the Sense Star Stuff power. Yes, that is its actual name. This is essentially a detect life power, highlighting all life forms in close range. It's perfect for planning out your path and getting to enemies at the right time. The big disadvantage it does have is that it doesn't detect robot enemies, so learn to fear both robots and turrets. If you're looking for some help when it comes to roleplaying or getting more of a feel for the character, the backstory should help out there. The Ronin grew up on Neon at the start of the 24th century. At this time, Ryujin Industries was just being formed, and was nowhere near the powerhouse it is in 2330. As such, various companies held more of a power on Neon, and everyone was fighting to become top dog. In such a time of turmoil, a hired blade had an easy time finding work. This was how the Ronin found himself in the employ of an engineer working on mind-altering technology. Times were dangerous, so a bodyguard was a smart investment. However, the engineer didn't come from money, so she could only hire one person. Despite this, she was certain her technology would earn her a fortune in the future, and apparently, she wasn't the only one who believed this. One day, a syndicate thug showed up at her apartment and gave her a simple offer: join up with Ryujin and hand over all of the blueprints, or die. She was a headstrong individual and outright refused the offer without a moment's consideration. After the thug left, the Ronin got called in to provide 24/7 protection. A smart call, as the syndicate returned in force that very night. A dozen people, heavily armed and ready to kill anyone who stood in their way. The Ronin drew his sword and stepped in front of his client. A moment of silence passed between the two groups. Everyone remained perfectly still, waiting for the moment when violence would erupt. Rain fell on the streets of Neon, and in the reflections on the ground, the first signs of movement began. The battle was quick and bloody. The Ronin's blade was a silver flash under the glowing neon lights. Bullets flew through the air, but not a single one pierced the Ronin's flesh. He dodged between the streams of fire, artfully cutting through the thugs with the surgical precision of a master. The whole fight was over in less than a minute. All the thugs stood dead at the Ronin's feet, but they weren't alone. Behind him, the engineer lay on the ground, blood spilling from her torso and head. The syndicate fighters may have all died, but they had still accomplished their mission, and the Ronin had failed. As the rain and blood flowed into the gutter, the Ronin let his sword slip from his numb fingers, the shame of his failure leading him to leave Neon behind for good. For years he travelled through the stars alone, working whatever jobs a lone drifter could be hired for. It was during this time that Argos extractors picked him up, and it is from here that the story passes on to you. And there we have the Ronin. This was my first melee build, but there's going to be plenty more to come. If you want to see more Starfield character builds, then make sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and comment with your thoughts. As always, thanks for watching. Sarge out.